Over the past few weeks, I, like many others, have made a killing in the stock market. But why? What's actually causing the market to go on such an amazing tear? And where's this recession that everybody's talking about? Let's talk about it. So over the past week, there's been a ton of different things and contributing factors to why the market's been performing so well. But the main thing that everyone's just finally starting to stumble upon, that I've been talking about for weeks now, practically months now, the figures that everyone was quoting for why we were going into a deep recession weren't actually that accurate. And the jobs numbers weren't really accurate either. So basically what they're looking at is the stock's earnings took a massive dive when we shut everything down in the country. Now, this would normally be really horrible if the stock's earnings naturally fell that low, but since it was so artificial, these actually aren't realistic in comparison to the rest of the numbers a given chart. So normally what we do when we look at stock charts as well as stock earnings is we look to see about one standard deviation away from the average. So what this means is we look at the average fluctuation. It's the 52-week moving average, so 1 year's worth of averages basically charted. Then we look to see what is one standard deviation away. Now, standard deviation can vary, but it has to fall within a certain range, a certain percentage range. Now, what we actually saw when the market started to dip due to the virus was all of these companies fell well below one standard deviation. So none of the data really is usable if you look to compare it to previous data. So with that said, I was saying a similar thing about the jobs report. So I said the jobs report data really wasn't that accurate because of, a bunch of legislative stuff, but also the fact that it fell well out of the range of one standard deviation. So what ended up happening recently is that the May jobs report was released and unemployment fell drastically. So instead of the over 14% like normal, we actually fell below 13%. And we actually had 2.5 million new jobs added to our market. Now, this is amazing news because it means even though the economy is shut down and we're just starting reopening efforts, we are still actually growing as an overall economy. Now, over the past couple of months, you've heard about the stock market and our economy setting multiple records that haven't been broken since the 1929 depression. Well, here's another one. We have not experienced this large of a job growth since 1939, which shows how actually significant it is. And actually, that's past the majority of the bad stuff that happened in the 1929 depression. So that actually would demonstrate that we're on the road to a recovery and not necessarily a recession. But nobody wants to talk about that because the big headline is what's going on with this recession and when is it coming. Now, another massive item that people kind of have skipped over is that the price of our dollar compared to other currencies has actually decreased. Now, there's an index that tracks this, and it basically compares our dollar to 6 other countries' currencies. In this index, the dollar fell significantly. Now, this is actually really good. So normally we want our dollar to be stronger against other currencies, but right now we're looking for investment into our country. And there's no better way to gain investment than to have our dollars be really cheap for foreign investors to start investing back into the United States. Now, the last major thing that I wanted to talk about when referencing our economy picking back up again and the stock market going on a boom period is the fact that everything's starting to reopen again. So as we've been completely shut down and all of the earnings of all these companies have basically dropped to zero, now we can actually expect higher levels. We can base this off of the fact that now we're going from zero, absolutely no revenue, now we're returning to normal revenue. So you can expect these stocks that dropped off 40, 50% to come back tenfold. A great example of this would be oil stocks. Oil stocks took a massive hit due to the lackluster travel that was going on, as well as some international conflicts with OPEC as well, but I'm not really gonna get into that in this video and might touch on that in another video. Oil companies took a massive, massive dive, but over the past week have been performing absolutely incredibly, and I've been making a ton of money on them. And so we can kind of extrapolate that out to everything else as companies start to open up again. Now, you're still gonna have the negative Nancy's out there saying that, you know, the economy is still headed for depression and we're still headed for a recession and it's just inevitable and it's going to happen. But this correction was actually amazing. We're only actually down, I think, 6 or 7% off of the high as of filming this. So we've erased, at least from an S&P 500 perspective, we've erased all of the losses from this year. That means we're basically starting from December. We've beaten this coronavirus-related recession, which is absolutely mind-blowing that we did it that quickly. So everybody that's talking about, well, how's the recovery gonna come? What's gonna go on with the recovery? Is it gonna be a V-shaped recovery? Is it gonna be a W-shaped recovery? We just saw it, and it passed us by. So that's really all I have to say about this subject. I know this was a relatively shorter video, but I just wanted to get it out there that, you know, the stock market is performing amazing right now, and a lot of people don't really know why. So I just wanted to touch on it a little bit. As a question to you guys, I would like to ask, you know, what's in your portfolio? What are you guys doing, and how are you guys reacting to this major stock market boom recently? And as a side note, I'm going to be releasing a new series of videos that I think will be pretty interesting. It's kind of me dipping my toes into a bunch of different things and kind of, you know, exploring them a little bit. But we'll have more on that in another video. I'll kind of, you know, lay that out. But if you guys could drop a like and leave a subscribe. If you guys could subscribe, that would be great. And thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.